supply system for our ventilator. It comes into the ventilator behind there. We have the power supply system, which we hook up at the back, and then we switch on the ventilator. And once we turn it on, we can see all the collaborating institutions. We can set the parameters for the ventilation depending on the patient you have. As we've been told, COVID-19 patients require, for example, a respiratory rate, an IE ratio of 1 to 3. So the settings will vary depending on the different patients that you have. And then we can start the ventilation. So the system is capable of informing you if there are any alarms, if anything has gone wrong, and it will do continuous monitoring of the pressure being delivered to the patient, the tidal volume that has been delivered, and the flow rate at which it's delivered. We can also see the respiratory rate, that's the breaths per minute. Yes, that's about it. We have a backup battery system here, so if it's going to the rural areas, it will be able to work well when the power supply goes off. Our backup battery system can work for more than 2 hours. Yes. We've included a solar charge controller, so we'll have solar panels being able to charge our battery system. So you can either use the supply from the electrical supply, or you can use solar to charge the battery. Yeah, so here the doctor set up this mannequin, which represents what they would do in the hospital. Once everything is switched on, we test with this test lung. You need to be able to test and make sure everything is working well. And once you're sure it's working perfectly, then you connect to the patient. Some patients may not require this intubation, so I guess they can use a mask. But I think most of the patients right now require this kind of connection. Yeah. Thank you.
In terms of the application of this ventilator, so our thought was that we need a ventilator that has a hybrid application mode. So without the stand, this ventilator can be used as a transport ventilator in an ambulance. So if we have to evacuate a patient at a risk and they require support during ambulance, then we can use this ventilator. But then in the hospital setting, it can also be used. In the hospital, you can use it in the ICU. You can also use it outside the ICU, because in case the ICU is full, you may have some minor cases which require oxygenation and things like that. Also, the ventilator is capable of supporting that. The design and feel was important to use a touch screen to avoid having so many buttons, which could end up being vectors themselves of other infections as well. We have been engaging with some actors in the private sector, and allow me to observe that for the fabrication of the casing, we have worked with one of the best fabricators in the country, Victoria Engineering Limited. And for the adaptation and the printing of the motherboard, we have worked with a young man who's running a startup. I don't know what the name of that young man is called. Billy Applied Electronics and ICT Center has been able to do that. So already you're seeing that we are starting to develop a deeper value chain and going for specialization. Our engineers here have been good at doing the mechanical engineering design, electronics design, architecture styling. And we may also want to note that the outlook and the styling and the trademark were developed by Mr. Joseph Sematimba, who is also the person who designed the banknotes we are using today for Bank of Uganda.